What if I told you that the most dangerous military conflict on Earth right now is not in Ukraine, not in the South China Sea, but in Iran? And what if I told you that, right now, as you watch this, the United States Energy Secretary has warned Congress that Iran is, in his own words, frighteningly close to a nuclear weapon, while American and Israeli bombs continue to fall on Persian soil? Let me walk you through exactly what is happening, why it matters, and what the world is getting dangerously wrong about this war. To understand where we are today, I need to take you back, not all the way to 1979, but close enough. Tensions between the United States and Iran stretch back to the Islamic Revolution in 1979 and the subsequent Iran hostage crisis, which set a tone of mutual hostility and deep distrust. For decades, the core flashpoint has been Iran's nuclear program. In 2015, the world thought it had found a solution, the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, the JCPOA. But in 2018, President Trump pulled the United States out of that deal, reimposed crushing sanctions, and set Iran on a collision course with the West. Attempts to renegotiate a nuclear deal in 2025 and 2026 were unsuccessful. By early 2026, Iran was in a weakened but dangerous state. Its posture was weakened after years of sanctions, destabilizing protests, damage inflicted during the 12-day war with Israel in June 2025, and the diminished position of Iran's allies. Yet despite all of that, Iran's nuclear program had not stopped. In December 2024, IAEA Director General Rafael Grossi told Reuters that Tehran was dramatically ramping up uranium enrichment to up to 60%, close to the roughly 90% weapons-grade threshold. And here is the frightening arithmetic. When you are at 60% enrichment, you are already more than 90% of the way through the most difficult technical steps toward a bomb. Negotiations were underway. Oman was mediating. Iran had even made what sources described as a surprising offer on its nuclear program in late February 2026. Both sides had agreed to meet again in Vienna. But then, everything changed in a single morning. Mid-morning on February 28, 2026, U.S. and Israeli forces launched nearly 900 strikes in 12 hours, targeting Iranian missiles, air defenses, military infrastructure, and leadership. This was Operation Epic Fury, a name that tells you everything about the intent behind it. At 6:35 UTC, CENTCOM announced that it and partner forces had begun airstrikes against Iran. U.S. warships launched Tomahawk missiles, while the U.S. Army used HIMARS launchers. The U.S. military stated that it used B-2 stealth bombers, as well as B-1 Lancers and B-52 Stratofortresses, to strike fortified ballistic missile facilities inside Iran. The opening strike was historic in its brutality and its ambition. At 6:45 UTC, the Israeli Air Force began an unprecedented wave of decapitation strikes. Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei and several high officials were killed, as were members of his family. Iran's Supreme Leader, the man who had ruled the Islamic Republic for 34 years, was gone in under an hour. But the strikes did not stop there. The initial wave of strikes also killed about 170 people when a missile struck a girls' school adjacent to a naval base in Minab, near Bandar Abbas. That single strike became a symbol of the unavoidable human cost of this war. Iran did not collapse. It hit back hard. In retaliation, Iran launched hundreds of drones and ballistic missiles at Israel, U.S. military bases in the region, and neighboring Arab countries including Bahrain, Jordan, Kuwait, Oman, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, and the United Arab Emirates. Iran also made a move that shook the global economy to its core. It closed the Strait of Hormuz, the narrow waterway through which roughly 20% of the world's oil passes every single day. Re-establishing freedom of navigation in the Strait of Hormuz is widely seen as a substantial issue in the April talks. The financial cost alone should make you pause. The Pentagon told Congress the first week of the Iran war cost more than $11.3 billion. One think tank estimated the first 100 hours alone cost $3.7 billion. And the human cost? The attacks left enormous damage, thousands of people dead in Iran, Lebanon, Israel, and the Gulf Arab states, and millions of people displaced in the region. A temporary ceasefire was announced on April 7, 2026, mediated by Pakistan, but neither side fully stood down. The Strait of Hormuz remained contested. U.S. and Iranian blockades stayed in place. And the nuclear question, the question that started all of this, remained dangerously unresolved. Here is the part that should keep you up at night. Energy Secretary Chris Wright warned Congress on May 13, 2026, that Iran is frighteningly close to obtaining a nuclear weapon, nearly 3 months after the United States launched a war to halt that very possibility. He stated, referring to Iran's current stock of nuclear material, they are weeks, a small number of weeks, away to enrich that to weapons-grade uranium. Senator Richard Blumenthal added that roughly a ton of Iran's 60% enriched uranium is only weeks away from weapons-grade level, with another 11 tons of 20% material not far behind. Although Iran may still technically access some highly enriched uranium stocks, Trump has repeatedly stated that the United States and Israel maintain round-the-clock surveillance of the destroyed or damaged Natanz, Fordo, and Isfahan tunnel facilities, and will strike anyone attempting excavation or entry. Secretary of State Marco Rubio said in March that people are going to have to go and get it. Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth told reporters simply, "They will either give it to us or we'll take it out." And then, on April 7, 2026, President Trump posted on Truth Social that a whole civilization will die tonight, never to be brought back again, a statement that triggered international alarm about potential nuclear use. The Secretary General of Amnesty International said that Trump's statement may constitute a threat to commit genocide. The White House denied considering using nuclear weapons. Whether that denial reassures you or not likely depends on how closely you have been watching this conflict. So, where does this leave us? Talks between the U.S. and Iran are being mediated by Pakistan, and issues under discussion include freedom of navigation through the Strait of Hormuz, Iran's nuclear and ballistic program, reconstruction, sanctions, and a long-term peace agreement. 2 rounds have been held. Neither has produced a final deal. The strait remains blocked. Iran's nuclear material remains partially intact and partially inaccessible, entombed beneath mountains of rubble and diplomatic uncertainty. The lesson of this conflict is one we have seen before, but rarely this clearly. When diplomacy is abandoned mid-negotiation, the alternative is not peace. It is a war that costs billions per week, displaces millions of people, and still does not solve the original problem. Iran's nuclear knowledge cannot be bombed away. Its scientists, its engineers, its institutional memory, those survive airstrikes. The only enduring solution has always been a verified, enforceable agreement. Whether the world finds the will to reach one before this war enters an even deadlier phase is the question that every government, every diplomat, and every citizen should be asking right now. I want to hear from you. Do you think military action alone can resolve Iran's nuclear ambitions? Or is diplomacy the only real path forward? Leave your answer below and share this if you believe more people need to understand what is actually happening in this war.